Is there anything you want to like? I mean, is there any promoting of yourself that you want to do today?
Not really.
You don't really care about that.
Nope.
Why not? What's your theory on that? Are we recording yet? We might want to get this before he answers this question.
The only
Are all the cameras recording?
Yeah, bro.
Okay, we're good. All right. Okay.
So,
I ask you, do you want to promote anything or promote yourself or whatever? And you said no. And so what's your reasoning behind that?
I said no, but really, the only promotion that matters to me for my business is that we do quality renovations and really cool redevelopment projects, and I just like to bring awareness to that because if the realtor community hears about it, number one, I do want the realtor community to know that we are buyers of real estate, and I'm constantly promoting that, so that's important.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I want the banking community, the buyers of real estate to know that, or on the residential side, buyers of residential houses, I want them to know that we put out quality products that they can buy. And then on the commercial side, I want businesses to know that we provide quality spaces on the retail and office and warehouse side. So yeah, that's what I want to get out there.
Gotcha.
How we do that, I don't know.
Okay. Well, towards the end, when we kind of are wrapping it up, I'll say I still feel a little bit low, or is it just my headphones?
I hear myself louder than I hear you.
Yes, I agree.
Now you're.
I think I need to get crunked
now
up.
you're on.
Crunk me up, man. Come on, crunk me up. Get crunk.
Yeah, just get in nice and close. Can you hear me pretty well?
I'm right there, bro. My lips are on this thing.
Just
You know what I'm saying?
closer. Just a little closer.
No, you just needed to turn the dial.
You can hear me whisper.
It's not the.
All right.
You can hear me now.
You want to scream? Let's scream.
What?
No, that's too
Oh
loud.
yeah. No,
See?
that's too much.
No, y'all are
See?
on, y'all are on the same.
You fixed it. But we were struggling there for a minute, but you fixed it. We're good.
We all right.
We good?
I'm good.
All right, let's go. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Podcast number 3. Welcome. Clint Watson here. Who are you?
Benjamin Bisson. Creed podcast. Number 2.
Creed podcast.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Number 3. Technically.
We still got to go back and shoot. We're going to do a series of like episode 1 is going to be a series though.
Like Star Wars, we're going all over the place.
That's right. So, welcome, gang, if you're listening. We do have a guest with us today, and I'm going to give him a quick introduction before I let him introduce himself. So, this is my friend, my partner, brother, Duke Gibbs, Gibbs Capital. And I've known Duke for, let's see, Russ introduced us how many years ago? Let's see, back at Tribe.
6 or 7.
6 or 7. Yeah, 6 or 7 years.
A minute.
Russ Tanner, the infamous Russ Tanner, was working out over at Tribe, over the old building. And he said, I got somebody I want you to meet. And I think we went to lunch first, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember whether we went to lunch first or whether you came for a workout. Anyway, Duke ended up joining, worked out pretty consistently for a while. He's been a on-again, off-again member of the Creed. Currently, he's off again. maybe one day we'll get him back on again.
It's
Still
a good
exercising, just not at Creed.
It's a good perspective to have.
What do you mean?
Someone who's off.
Yeah, you can be off for a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, he's not off working out wise.
Right.
He's just off the Creed bandwagon
Right.
for the moment. You know. What's that about? Is it fear or what is it, man?
I got some New Year's resolutions that might come to fruition this
I was
year.
wondering. I was wondering if maybe the end of the year, New Year coming up, there might be some thought patterns changing. You know.
Well, here's the thing. The comments from the wifey on the midsection combined with when I sit down and buckle in my seatbelt in my truck, I can start to. I'm conscious of when the seatbelt goes across.
Do you go over or under?
Under.
You pull it up and go
Yeah.
under. I'm just curious.
That's going to be the best question of the entire podcast.
We should just turn it off. Let's just turn it off.
Turn it off.
You go over or under.
And
We're
so, you know, Russ Tanner, since you mentioned Russ Tanner, Russ loves to say, Duke, you know, I'm fat, but you're skinny fat. He's like, I'd rather be fat than skinny fat. So the combination of those three things are starting to wear on me a little bit, and, you know, we'll see. I've always known I was going to come back at some point. I've just been on a couple-year leave of absence.
Little hiatus. Yeah. That's all right.
We'll see.
You know, we have some people like that. We got some people probably listening right now that's on a little hiatus. Hey, you're still welcome back. I still love you. You're welcome back. Let's go. Anyway, so we're going to be talking to Duke today about real estate. And so Duke, you know, well, here's the thing. The people that we bring on this podcast are people who I believe are living the creed. And we're going to talk about what the creed actually is in our series of introductory episode 1s, right? We're going to talk about that in depth.
We'll unpack it for you.
We'll unpack it. But, you know, one of the things is excellence. It's we believe in excellence. We believe in doing whatever we put in our hands to, we're going to do it with excellence. Like, we're not just going to do it, you know what I mean, do a crappy job of it. So Duke is, you know, you're somebody, Duke, that I believe you're really practicing excellence in the real estate, you know, sector, in that industry. You know, Duke, you helped me do my house, my personal home, which was awesome. Bought it in foreclosure, redid it. Now it's awesome. Duke helped us do this building, so we're partners on this building, this very room that we're sitting in here now. And just an incredible job. If you're not local and you want to see the building, I believe we've got some pics on our website and our Creed Facebook. But you can also Google Maps it and take a peek. 1971 Hog Mountain Road. Yes, that's the name of the road. Hog Mountain Road, Watkinsville, Georgia. And you'll get a quick glimpse of that project. And so Duke, you know, led that project from start to finish, was the main designer on the project. There were a couple of other, you know, people that had some say, but Duke had the main say, and he really kind of ran that project start to finish. So Duke, you're the man, bro. I believe in you, and I believe that you're already doing big things here in the Athens area, but I mean, I believe that your influence is only going to increase. Your credibility is only going to increase. And so, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. Anytime I get to hang out with Mr. Clint Watson, if it means I got to talk or do whatever, I'm happy to do it. And you know how much I love my 12 o'clock lunches. So the fact that I'm going to have to miss that and get on the Clint Watson eating schedule of eating peanut butter scoops every 2 hours, that means, you know, this is a big deal for me. So.
If I ever text Duke for lunch, and if I ever say anything other than 12 o'clock, he just bucks like crazy. I'm like, 11:30, 12:30, 12.
That's right.
That's lunchtime.
Yeah.
So, Duke,
3 square meals a day.
Right. Give us just a quick intro of yourself, kind of hometown, family, childhood, your current family situation. Give us a little bit of that before we dig into career stuff.
Well, I'm originally from South Georgia. South Georgia boy, grew up in Tifton, and just honestly had just a great childhood upbringing. Had two just unbelievable parents that loved me, supported me, you know, showed me what it looked like to serve and to work hard, and you know, really instilled just, you know, values that were priceless. And you know, I credit my mom and dad for you know, a lot of the drive and the self-belief and, you know, a lot of those things, because they really, you know, even at an early age, you know, just drove in things in my mind that, you know, I could do anything I wanted to do if and that, you know, no matter what it was. And, you know, and then also on the leadership and accountability side, you know, that my mom used to always tell me that, you know, people are always watching you, you know, and so, you know, she used to tell me when I was young that I was a leader, even though at the time I didn't even really know what a leader was. And she said, you know, people are going to want to follow you. People want to follow somebody, and people are looking for somebody to follow. And so, you know, just things like that, just really, you know, honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better childhood experience. And had a great high school, played high school basketball. You know, sports was huge in my life. It was pretty much all I did. And my dad, my mom and dad were both educators. My mom was a teacher. My dad was a coach, a basketball coach, and then moved into administration, became a middle school, elementary and middle school principal. And so, you know, we didn't have a lot of money or anything growing up. We just, you know, good middle income family. And my dad told me, both me and my younger brother, that, you know, if we didn't get a basketball scholarship, we couldn't go to college because he couldn't pay for our college. And you know, thinking back on that, you know, I didn't know there was such thing as student loans and, you know, hope and all this stuff that, you know, I probably could have gone to college. But hey, I believed what he told me, and, you know, it worked. So worked hard, and, you know, ended up getting a full-ride basketball scholarship, paid for my college for 4 years at Georgia College in Milledgeville. And you know, had some amazing coaches, hard, but, you know, great college coach, a guy that, you know, is really high on my list of people that have molded who I am. And yeah, so great college experience. I got a little taste of business in college, and then right out of college, jumped, you know, for arms and legs and everything into the real estate world, and been doing it ever since, going on 14 years.
And so, family-wise, where are you at with that? How many kids, all that?
So I met the girl of my dreams in college, and it took me about 9 months of rejection, and, you know, a lot of those
Nice.
a lot of the things that my parents taught me when I was young kicked in, and I wouldn't take no for an answer, and just kept persisting, and finally got Carrie Harrelson, now Carrie Gibbs, to marry me. And we now live here in Watkinsville, been here since 2009, and we have 3 kids, Jackson, Paisley, and Noah, 2 boys and a girl, 7, 6, and 4. And so we've got a crazy busy house, and Carrie is able to stay at home with the kids, which has been such a blessing. And so you know, they're doing good, and you know, just doing life, doing the kid thing.
So here's a funny story. Duke is almost single-handedly responsible for, well, let's put it this way. You would have, if I would not have had kids, Duke would have probably been single-handedly responsible for that decision. We took a trip down to Orange Beach. So Duke's got a property down at Orange Beach. We'll probably get into that some today. Incredible property down there that he developed. And he wanted us, you know, me and Leah, to see it. So we went down on a trip. This was probably about a year or so before we began having kids. And that experience scarred me.
I like it.
It scarred me. And I don't, it wasn't even, I can't even really put a finger on what it was. I think it was just whatever picture I had in my mind of what 3 kids were like. So at that point, I think Noah was maybe 1.
Yeah.
PK was maybe 3, 4, something like that. And Jackson was, 5 or 6 or something like that. Anyway, the picture that I had in my mind was very different from reality. And I just remember coming home from that experience talking to Leah like, I don't know about this kid's thing. And his kids were great. They were sweet. They were fine. But it was just like, it's just a lot, man. It's just a lot.
It is. Well, you're my biggest inspiration for waiting.
Right.
No, I think it was a classic case of what turned out the vacation was not what you expected it to be. Clint thought he was going to get to go down to Orange Beach and lay out on the beach and lay out by the pool and and just relax. And when you go to the beach with three kids under 4 or 5 years of age, it's not a vacation, it's a relocation.
What'd you end up doing? What did you end up doing that week?
I don't even remember.
Playing in the sand?
So many years ago. I mean, we had a great time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It was just the full experience of, wow, this is kind of a nonstop thing. Like you don't get to press the pause button.
That's right.
Like you gotta, all day. It's an all day thing, and there is no like, okay, hit the pause. Now we're gonna rest. No, it's continuous.
Well, on a larger scale, what scares me most about parenting isn't a 24-hour. It's 18, 20, 30 years. When you press, there's no pause like, oh, pause 3 years, we'll take a break. No, you hit that button and it's on for 30
Right.
years,
Right.
sometimes 40 years.
Yeah. Well, here's what I've heard. I've heard once you're a parent, you're
Yeah.
always a parent,
That's
right?
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
is that kind of what?
Yeah, I've heard that just because your kids get older doesn't mean you quit worrying
Right.
about them, you quit thinking about them, and so once it happens, it's
Forever.
yeah.
So no, it's not 30 years, bro. It's forever.
Yeah. 25 to life.
Right. All right. So, Duke, before you mentioned your college experience, and I'm going to ask you to go into that a little bit as far as career-wise. But I want you to back up even further because even younger, you really started in business with a landscaping
That's right.
job, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so let's see. I was, just like a lot of kids, 10, 11 years old, or at least back then, I had a little push lawnmower and would go around to the neighborhoods and neighbors and start mowing their yard for $5 or $10 or whatever they would pay me, and I had my best friend was a guy named Josh Pope, and he and I, his dad was in the real estate business down in Tifton, and so he managed some properties, owned some properties, and he put the word out that we wanted to start a real lawn business. So, Josh was 15 years old, and I was 14 years old. And neither one of us had a driver's license to be able to drive by ourselves. And we were driving all over town with a truck and a trailer with 2 lawnmowers, mowing businesses, lawyers' offices, residential properties, houses. And I think by we started it when he was 15, I was 14. And, 1 year in, we had up to 25 accounts, and we're mowing, yards, and I was keeping the books on a notebook paper and doing the billing, and so that was actually the first. At the time it was just, I didn't even think of it much as a business. It was just, hey, we're mowing yards and getting paid, and having fun, and so we did that, all through high school. Had the lawn company. And,
Did you stash any of that money, or did you blow it all?
Oh man, no. Look. Hey, my goal when in the lawn business, we had 2 42-inch Craftsmans, not even hydrostatic shift. I mean, you had to push the clutch, move to the next gear, ride behind. And my whole goal was to stash up enough money to be able to buy zero turn. You know, back then it was either the grass. It was called the Grasshopper was the first one, and you know the Laser Z's and all these others hadn't even come out yet. So, you know, I never realized my dream of getting a zero turn. And you know what really made me mad was some of my more well-off buddies that had families, had money. They decided they wanted to get in the yard business, and their parents go buy them a brand new zero turn, and you know, new backpack blowers and new trailer and you know everything. And so they come rolling up in a brand new outfit, and we're still over there with our two 42-inch Craftsmans. But
yeah, but you had the 25 accounts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The lawyer's office paying us $10. You know, I look back and I'm like, man, I cannot believe these people felt okay. You know, I mean, we come up, we mow, we'd eat, we edge, we blow, and we would do it for $10. You know? And I'm saying, man, that was highway robbery for these guys. We didn't. I mean, you know, we didn't know.
Right. I mean, it was money. You're like, yeah, we're getting paid.
And you can still get that zero turn. It's not too late, dude.
I'm sure he's got one by now.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I got one now.
Now you've realized the dream.
That's awesome. All right, so now talk a little bit about your college experience. You were kind of the man on campus, right? Not only from a basketball player standpoint, but also from a business standpoint.
Well, basketball, you know, once you get into college, when you play college basketball, it's a full-time job. You know, I didn't have much time to do anything else. So, you know, you got the school, and then you got, when you're not, you know, in class or studying, you're either in study hall, mandatory study hall, or practicing. And so, you know, that really, the college basketball experience is what created a lot of the discipline in my life, and also the, you know, the really, really hard practices are, you know, I credit those for the drive to keep going when you feel like you can't. You know, there was many times when, you know, I literally thought, you know, we were on our 18th suicide, that I cannot do another one. I just can't do it. But, you know, an hour or two after practice, when you're laying on the floor in your dorm room, you know, and you start thinking, man, you know, I made it, you know, I got through it, you know, and so, you know, I go back to that a lot, because those were some tough things to get through. But as far as the business side of college, I was, you know, kind of got out of it. Went to work as a cart boy at a golf course summer of my freshman year, and then did that the summer. And then the next summer around, I was introduced to multi-level marketing.
Oh yeah.
Had no clue what it was, never heard of it before, and it was a company called Excel Communications, and they sold.
Now, what year was this?
2001.
Okay, so this was.
Boom.
This was kind of. I'm trying to think. I mean, cell phones obviously nowhere near where they are now, but try to place that. I mean, where was that in the life of the cell phone?
I had a cell phone in 2001, but I wasn't allowed to call long distance on it.
Okay.
So, like, to call home, I still had to use calling cards, you know, prepaid long distance calling cards, and don't use the cell phone. Long distance was very much still a thing, you know, like the 10 cent a minute. By 2001, it had gotten down to 5 cents a minute. And so, you know, calling long distance from the house was still a thing. And so Excel's business model was, you know, back, you know, I can't remember what it was. It was like in the early 90s or late 80s, or when you went to call long distance in the 80s, like AT&T or Bell South was the only option. The government came in and deregulated the long distance industry and said, okay, we're going to force competition. And so all these companies could come in and then compete for long distance service. And Excel was one of those companies, and they their business through a network of individuals, independent representatives who go out and get customers, friends, family members, whatever, and then the company would pay bonuses if you go recruit other people to go get their friends and family on the long distance. And the independent reps got paid by getting a little percentage of their customers' phone bills every month. And so that was the business model. And so Excel came in and just really disrupted the market by creating this direct sales marketing strategy. And I was introduced to it my sophomore year in college, and I remember going to the meeting. Just like multi-level mornings, people host these little meetings or get-togethers or whatever, and they pitch the business opportunity. And for me, it seemed really simple. It was basically, hey, in your spare time, go get your friends and family members to switch over from Bell South to Excel. They're paying 10 cents a minute with Bell South for the long distance. We got this plan that's, it was called the nickel plan or something, at 5 cents a minute. You can save them a little money on the long distance, and you'll start getting paid a little percentage of their phone bills. So not only will they be saving money on their long distance, they'll be helping you out by helping you make a little money by getting a little residual income off of their phone bill every month. And so that's the first thing you do. And then once you've built up, 20 customers or so, then if you want to, you can go recruit other college students to sign up as a rep, and then teach them how to go out and get customers just like you did, and then teach them how to recruit other college students. So made sense to me. I said, hey, I can do it. Jumped in at full blast, and within 2 years, I had thousands of college students under me in the at the time you didn't use the word pyramid, but
right.
in the pyramid,
right?
And they all had a certain number of customers. So within 2 years, I was and you had all these promotions, or you get a certain number of reps or a certain number of customers, you get promoted. And so I had moved up to, I believe it was called regional director or something like that, and was getting paid on thousands of long distance phone bills, and then you got these bonuses every time a new rep would sign up. And man, it was fun. We would, me and Josh Pope, my buddy that was had the long business, we were doing it together, and we had recruited some other young guys that really, heck, some of them dropped out of college, and I mean it was really disruptive what we were doing, and we had created little sales organizations at every campus. So we had one going at Georgia College, we had one going at UGA, we had one at Mercer, we had one at Georgia Southern.
Conquering the world, baby.
Yeah, and so we would come into town, and the reps there would get the meeting set up and everything. We'd come in, and my buddy Josh actually had a Hummer, a real Hummer, the big ones. And so we'd roll in the Hummer and get out and talk about how you can make money and doing it on the side. And then if you wanted to get real serious with it, you could make a lot of money. And the kids probably thought I was making a lot more money than I really was. I was making, still in college. I mean, I was making, $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 a month.
Yeah, but what was your best month? It was a lot better than that.
Yeah, but
you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I don't. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I don't care. But
close to the chest.
But yeah, so it was great, man. It was fun. We would go to the conventions, and there were guys. There were guys there that had started in the early '90s, and there were some guys that were making, like one guy made $1 million a month for 30 months in a row.
Dang.
And they were at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And you know, so that kind of stuff, they'd get you all pumped up, and that would fuel everybody to go out and recruit more people and get more customers. And man, it was you know, so young, you know, didn't know what I was doing, you know, and so it went on, and you know, even you know, I can't remember exactly when, but somewhere around when I was graduating college and you know, getting out and into the real world, I was thinking I was just going to continue with that. You know, I got to the point to where I was starting to feel some conviction about just talking about money all the time, and you know, I started getting a lot of people under me that were looking up to me. And, you know, I think I probably go back to what, you know, my mom used to tell me about, you know, people are always watching you, you know, make sure, you know, that you're leading people the right way. And, you know, I started thinking, you know, man, if any of these kids that are listening to me think that by what I'm saying that, you know, money is the key to happiness, or the key, or you know, that having more money will give you, you know, if your goal and your drive and everything is nothing but just strictly making money, I didn't want to, you know, give that sense, because that's not true in my opinion, and so I started struggling with that, and I even got to the point to where, in my presentations, I would say things like, you know, you probably shouldn't do this, and you know, this really isn't for everybody, and you know, you're probably not going to make any money doing it because it's so hard, and so many people, when you approach them, are going to tell you no because of the multi-level marketing stigma, and that just made people want to do it more, because I was telling them they didn't want to do it.
That's this guy.
They
right
shouldn't
here.
do it.
If you tell this guy you can't do it,
Yeah.
he's gonna want to do it more.
And so it just kept growing, and you know, I really got to the point to where, you know, I just made the decision that I wanted to move in a different direction, and that was the main reason, was I was convicted about that, and so you know, that was right along that timeline is when, you know, I ran into a guy named Jeremy Hobbs, who's, you know, still my best friend to this day, and jumped ship and jumped into the real estate world with him, and you know, looking back, it ended up being the right decision, because shortly thereafter, the cell phone unlimited dial call anywhere just completely destroyed that whole long distance market.
Yeah.
And so my getting paid on those long distance phone bills went away pretty quickly. And so, you know, I'm so thankful for the experience, and it was a great thing, but looking back, I ended up kind of taking the right path to jump into the real estate.
So let's talk about MLMs for a minute, okay?
Throw some stones.
Just for a minute.
Throw some stones.
You just got to do it. I mean, look.
You had an experience. Are you going to talk about yours?
I'm going to talk about my experience. It was a painful one.
Speaking of painful.
Very painful. What? What's wrong with you, bro?
I got a cramp.
You got a cramp? Straighten your leg out. Stretch it. Stretch it out. Come on.
Those deadlifts.
Here's the deal. And I really, you know, I want your take on this too.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. Little sound check, little sound adjustment here.
Sound adjustment.
Go ahead, go ahead, dude.
Yeah,
Little,
that's better.
yeah.
You like
There
that?
you
I got too
I like
loud
it.
there
I
for a
like it.
second.
Yeah, for a minute. Okay.
All right.
In my opinion, I think the business model, I do believe that it's legitimate. I mean, obviously it's legitimate because there are tons of companies that are doing it and have been doing it and have been successful with that business model for a long time. Here's my beef with it. Here's my issue with it, okay? In my opinion, again, some people might not like this opinion, but it's my opinion. Out of 50 people that sign up to distribute, to sell the product, I believe that 49 out of those 50 are doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's exactly like what you're saying. It's strictly money. It's because in a way I feel like it's sold as kind of a get rich quick thing. Hey, you can do this. It's very easy to do. You just recruit this person, that person, that person, and then they recruit 2 or 3 people, then they recruit 2 or 3 people, and voila, you're making $1 million a month. And it doesn't happen that way. So I think that's my biggest issue with it. And for me, I was one of those. And I also think that 1 out of 50 people sign up because they really believe in the product or the service or whatever it is, and they're trying to help people. Great. I got no issue with that. So for me, here's my story. I was probably 23, 22, working, as a personal trainer, managing 2 locations at a gym. So there were a lot of trainers that I was hiring and managing and stuff like that. And I was targeted, which I constantly get targeted by MLM companies. And what I'm going to do is from now on, I just had this idea as you were telling your story. I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct people from now on, every time I get a call, to this podcast. And I'm going to say, go to minute number whatever.
We'll do an excerpt. And
I'll explain to you why I'm not going to do your MLM product at my gym. I'm going to explain it to you fully. So, 22, 23 years old, sign up for Monavi, right?
What is that?
Come on, man. You don't know about Monavi?
Magic juice. The acai berry. I can still hear the introductory, because you have these meetings, right? I mean, you get together and you recruit people to your meeting, and then you play this introductory video, and it's really well done, and it's Monavi, the secret acai berry of the Brazilian forest, whatever the thing is, right? And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I want $1 million a month, don't you? Don't you want $1 million a month? Sure. It could happen tomorrow, and it's going to be great. And so what I did was I went to all of my friends, all of my family, told them that I was going to be a millionaire and that if they, jumped in, they would too, and all this stuff. And I just embarrassed myself, bro. I totally embarrassed myself. And so that was just such a painful experience for me that I vowed never again will I ever do this type of business, never again. I mean, anyway, it hurt me, and I feel like it hurt my reputation. There are still friends, to this day, there are friends that I think about. If I were to have a conversation with them, that would be kind of the beginning lens of our conversation, in my opinion, that they would view me as, that guy that, sold me on Monavi or whatever. And that sucks.
Did you get anyone to join?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I was not nearly as successful as Duke. I'm not a natural salesperson. I've gotten better at it. I think Duke is more of a natural salesperson. And I also think the product that you were selling.
That's what I was going to say.
I think the product that you were selling is.
It sounds legit.
It sounds more of a legitimate, hey, you really were like actually solving people's problems. Again, back to my opinion, most of the nutritional MLMs out there, they're a dime a dozen, man. And there's no regulation. There's no FDA involvement with supplements. You can put whatever you want in them. And all you have to do is throw a doctor's name on it, like Dr. Mercola or Dr. whoever, and now you're totally legit, right? That's my experience. So, hey, if you're watching this and you got an MLM product and you want it in Creed, it's not going to happen. So just don't
Heck
call
no.
me, please. Just don't.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. I've not done another one since Excel, and I probably will never do another one. But I'm always hesitant to knock it too hard because looking back, man, it taught me so much. And honestly, I think the problem is that, you know, most, like you said, it's the promise of the get rich quick thing. That's the problem. And bigger than that is, you know, entrepreneurialism is not for everybody. It's actually not for most people. And, you know, most small businesses fail. And, you know, when you try to just market it to everybody, and it's just destined for failure because people were not made to be entrepreneurs. You know, a lot of people aren't. And, you know, so, you know, I look back and I think about all the people that signed up that it's like when you just knew they weren't going to make it, you know. And that's part of the problem, you know, for someone like, you know, myself who, you know, I could handle objection and you know, we used to say, you know, you got to meet with 10 people every day. You have to have 10 presentations a day, and you got to expect for 9 people to reject you. All right? And you just got to go through the nose to get to your yes. That was kind of what we promoted, you know, and so, you know, most people can't handle that type of rejection. And so I'm careful to knock it because, you know, like I said, if somebody goes for it, and you know, there are a lot of success stories out there where there are some. I mean, heck, some of these companies have been around for, you know, 30, 40 years, and you know, they've solved problems and they have good products, and but the negative connotations that come along with it are enough to keep me away from it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. I mean, for me, I was one of those that I was not a good fit. Even though you know, I own a business now, I still don't know that I'm an entrepreneur. I still don't know that I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I mean, I never would have started a business had it not been for my original business partner who convinced, you know, my original business partner was kind of like a Duke Gibbs, you know. And Dante, I borrowed his belief. I borrowed his belief that we could be successful, and he proved it to me very shortly after we started the business that we could be successful. And so from there, that kind of gave me the confidence, sort of the proof of, hey, we can do this. But before meeting him and before starting this business, I think now if I were to sign up for an MLM now and go for it, I may be more successful with it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I was one of those that immediately was not going to be successful. At that point in my life, I don't think I could have, like you said, I don't think I could have handled, or I couldn't. I couldn't handle that much rejection at that point in my life. Now I'm at a different place, but then for sure, was not ready for that. And that's what it takes.
I think what bothers me most about them, if we're kind of painting with a broad brush, is like you said, you go to the conference or you go to the meeting and someone says, you know, you'll make this much money, or this is the potential. And there is a ton of potential, you know, especially if you're selling a good product like you were. There's a lot of upside. The problem is it's over communicated how much money you can make and how likely it is that you'll make that. You know, from the higher ups, the pyramid is a pyramid. Like the person making $1 million a month for 30 months, like you said, he was at the top of the pyramid. Once you're, you know, 5 years into one of those companies or whatever, you know, however many years it is, the potential is so small. And the fact that that's communicated that you could be this too. Well, you'd have to stay, the company would have to stay open long enough. And 2, you'd have to stay there the entire time. And it's just, it doesn't seem realistic to me that's possible. I've watched some serious YouTubes on MLMs that kind of tear them up, and they're really entertaining.
Little bro science action.
Little bro science.
All right, so moving on from the MLM talk, super successful with that. You started doing real estate with your buddy Jeremy and kind of got going with it. And tell me, I want to hear kind of your biggest challenge, or like your favorite story to tell about your biggest challenge in real estate.
Well, that one is easy. I know we probably got a bunch of young listeners on this podcast here, so they may have only learned about this in their studies in school. But it's a little time called 2008, and it wasn't exactly very nice to guys like me. Jeremy and I really got going in 2004, 2005, and had a pretty rapid acceleration of success. And
what were y'all doing basically? What was the basic premise of what y'all did originally?
Well, we didn't have a clue what we were doing. Man, we were young and just, we were basically we had no experience in development or site development or anything. But
did y'all have any kind of mentoring or anything? Or was it just y'all just shooting from the hip?
Pretty much just shooting for the hip, man. I mean, Jeremy Hobbs, he's not in here, but I would tell this to him to his face. I mean, Jeremy's one of those guys that he even more than me. I mean, his self-belief that he can do anything. I mean, Jeremy's one of these guys that knows a little bit about everything. And so he and I together were a crazy combination of just ignorance on fire. And so we were going out and tying up land, future development land, just farms in the middle Georgia area, Warner Robins, Perry, South Georgia, and getting them, negotiating with the original landowners and getting them under contract with long due diligence periods, long time frame from the time that we put it under contract to the time that we have to close. And then we would go hire an engineer or a land planner to put a little site plan on it and take it through the annexation and the rezoning process at the county, and get up there and present our plan and have all the community people yelling at us and mad about us developing up their old farms and stuff.
So let me pause you already, because you're already saying things that are like, I mean, did you had to have at least read a book or something? I mean, how do you even go about going to court and the annexation? I mean, where do you?
Well, we knew enough to that we had to get people involved that knew what they were doing.
Okay.
I mean, we got engineering firms and land planning firms that do this stuff.
So you were just learning as you were going.
Oh
basically.
Yeah, just learning as we were going, man. Never been to a class, nothing. And so we would try to get all that done and add value to the property before we even had to buy it, and then had some successful flips where we would actually flip the contract to a developer who would then take it through the rest of the process and develop out the land and sell the lots to builders. And man, during that time, I mean, it was an unprecedented time in real estate where 04, 05, 06, I mean, real estate values were increasing double digits per year. So, I mean, if you held something for 6 months, you could sell it for more than what you paid for it, 6 months earlier most of the time, and not have to do anything. So, we both jumped in with no money. We didn't have any money really, and so, it was just a timing where, real estate values were going up. Banks were lending money, like hopefully will never happen again. I mean, here we were 21 and 23 or 24. We would walk into a bank with a pretty little site plan on a piece of property, and we would convince them to loan us 100% of the purchase price, and improvement costs, and we wouldn't have to put any money into it. And you know, that's unheard of. It was unheard of before that. It's unheard of now. But everybody was just riding this bubble of, you know, every real estate's going up. Everything's great. Everybody's making money. Banks are making money. Developers are making money. It's all just lovely. So that was kind of how we jumped in. We were doing that, and then we started doing some development ourselves. We learned quickly, and we were developing single-family subdivisions, selling lots to builders, buying and selling land. And by about the time 2007, 2008 came along, we had accumulated a lot of properties and projects and had a bunch of debt and a bunch of, you know, just a lot of everything, and in a fast period of time. And it was, you know, we didn't know, you know, just looking back, it's just, you know, amazing that, you know, we accumulated all that and had no real fundamentals of true investing and things. And then, you know, 2008 came along and it hit us like a freight train. And so, you know, you asked about the challenge. You know, the biggest challenge overall was just navigating that whole Great Recession and trying to, you know, get out of all that stuff. I was very fortunate and blessed and grateful that I never ended up having to file bankruptcy or anything like that, which was, you know, a blessing. And but, you know, we you know, lost a lot of stuff, you know, negotiated with banks. I mean, guys, I've got so many stories. I mean, three or four of the banks that we were involved in got shut down by the FDIC. I mean, come in, you know, you're done. I mean, that's how bad it was. I mean, we had, you know, one banker that, or two bankers that we were involved in went to prison. Another banker went down to a public park in Gwinnett County and killed himself. And these were all, you know, people like us that were just good community people.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it was rough, man.
Mm.
But the time that the single most challenging point was in October of 2008, which was when it really hit the fan with the stock market, and, you know, the big banks were going under. And I had a project that was going in Orange Beach, Alabama. I bought the land in 2005, and you know, that was, when I look back, I mean, that 05 was really the peak, you know, and it just paid $750,000 an acre for this property, and on the water, beautiful piece of property, and actually did the full development. Took about 2 years to do the planning and get all the approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers for a big marina that we were building.
And explain a little bit about, like, what the property is, like what you turned it into.
Yeah, so
this is very interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard about this.
It's called Heritage Motor Coach Resort and Marina, and it's a high-end RV resort. We, you know, another one of those things, I didn't have any experience in that, but I was down there. We were doing some stuff down there, and ran across this property, and it was an old trailer park. There was even still old trailers on the property when I bought it, and but it was the most beautiful piece of property on the water, looking out at the bay. And one of the permitted uses was under that zoning was an RV resort. So I started doing some research, and I found that you know, you had these people that were traveling around in these $1 million, $2 million really high-end motor coaches, but they were still parking and staying overnight in like KOA campgrounds with like dirt, you know, dirt driveways, and, you know, you'd have $1 million RV, and then you'd have a pop-up camper right beside it. And so I said, man, so there were a handful of what we would call high-end luxury RV resorts across the country. So I went around, you know, visited those, and I said, man, you know, this is the perfect spot for this. So, yeah, so went full blown into, building, doing the planning, marketing, sales, development of this really high-end luxury RV resort. It was 79 units, 42 boat slips. We had built a little coach house on every single lot so that, people could, have a little bedroom plan, or, we had like 4 or 5 different floor plans that they could choose from. And built a big, beautiful clubhouse out on the water with a pool and, fitness center. And
it's incredible. Google it.
Clint's been there.
Google it. It's incredible. I just remember you would describe it to me, and I had the hardest time drawing that image in my mind of what it actually is. And then when you see it, you're like, holy crap, this is incredible. It's crazy.
Yeah, so 08 came along. We were right in the middle of development on this deal. And I mean, infrastructure was in, water and sewer was going in, roads had not even been built yet, clubhouse was halfway under construction. It was just a big construction site. And, we had put a lot of money in to buy the property, but we also had loans on the property, and then we had a large construction line on the site development. And, I had an investor group had bought into the deal and put money in. And, here I was, 08, so I was 26 years old. Is that right? Yeah, 26. And
Dang, that's me.
We
That's
were
your age, buddy.
We were 8 figures into this project. And got a phone call from my banker in Macon, Georgia, regional bank, and said, Duke, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to loan you any more money on this development. And I said, what do you mean? We making our payments, everything's great, we're in the middle of the development. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore. You're going to have to deal with this guy in Birmingham now, and y'all are just going to have to work it out, but we can't loan you any more money. And, at that stage, I had investors that had put in millions of dollars of cash into this project. And I just went back and immediately called a meeting with them, because we still had many, many, many millions to go to get the project finished. And, we're sitting here with a half-built development that you can't do anything with. You can't sell lots. You can't sell the property. I mean, you could sell the property, but who's going to buy it, right now? And, down there in Orange Beach, we experienced a huge condo boom. So there were all these condo high-rises going up on the beach and stuff. Well, every one of those were going under. Mm-hmm. Banks were foreclosing. People were reneging on their contracts that they had signed to purchase stuff. Because, back in that time, like, speculators bought everything. So, like, when a condo would come online, everybody would rush to get all the units under contract just so they could flip the contracts or buy them and then flip them to more people. So it may get flipped 3 or 4 times before a buyer, the end user, even ends up buying it. That's how crazy it was. So all those speculators were just walking away from their earnest money, and because everything was crashing. And because other developers were getting the phone calls just like I was, that they weren't getting their money from the big banks to finish the development. So it was just this house of cards just started crumbling. And I called a emergency meeting with my investor group. We met down at an old farm down in Adel, Georgia, and sat down, and I explained the situation. And at the time, we had maybe 9 contracts on finished units, on end units, and people that said they were going to buy once we got it done. But 9 out of 79, And I said, guys, here's the deal. We're not getting any more money. Banks aren't loaning us any more money. We've still got, $6-7 million to go on this thing. What do we do? What do y'all want to do? And I'll never forget, they looked at me and unanimously said, you've got us this far. We trust you. We're going to do whatever you recommend.
That's awesome.
No, that wasn't awesome. That was horrible. Because here I am, 26 years old. You know, these people are, you know, these weren't like billionaire people. I mean, these are just good old, you know, local, you know, business owners that have good businesses, but they don't have millions of dollars laying around.
Right.
You know, I mean, it was I went back to Orange Beach, and I've only had 2 nervous breakdowns. I'm a pretty laid back guy, you know, don't get ruffled by much. I've had 2 nervous breakdowns in my life, and that night was one of them. And because I'm sitting here, you know, I got all these condos crashing around me. You know, I hit my knees, prayed, and, you know, just asked God for guidance, and, you know, honestly just didn't know what to do. But I just, my I don't know how you say it, naivety,
Yeah.
the naiveness of me being that young and not fully understanding the scope and the magnitude of the Great Recession made me think that, hey, I can still do this.
Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, exactly. And had I been more educated on what was going on, and, you know, looking back, like if today, if I were in those shoes, I would have not said, let's move forward. I know I wouldn't have, because the risk would have been too great, you know, and I'm more risk averse now than I was back then. I didn't even, you know, risk it. My risk awareness back then was just, you know, it was non-existent. And so, you know, I said, let's do it. Let's go forward. Let's figure out how to pay for this thing and get it built, and let's sell it out. And my mindset switched at that point from trying to make money to all I want to do is get my investors their money back. I don't care if I make a penny. I don't care if we make any money. You know, I mean, everybody was losing money during that time. I mean, you know, their businesses were losing money, you know, so it would have been a success to even get them their money back. You know, it was like, doesn't matter about making money at this point. And so I threw my budgets out the window, and I said, you know what, the only way we're going to make it is if we make this the nicest resort in the country. And so I actually went back to them and said, all right, we're going to spend more money. We're going to make this thing nicer. We're going to make the clubhouse bigger. We're going to do, instead of doing asphalt streets, we're going to do brick paver streets. We're going to do gas street lamps.
Wow.
And so, you know, God had his hand on it. I strongly believe that. I mean, some things worked out that were just, you know, unreal how things worked. I mean, we were able to, you know, the bank just kept hammering us on wanting to be out of it. You know, and again, we never missed a payment, never late on a payment. And they said, you know, we just want out. We got to get off the Gulf Coast. The Gulf Coast is killing us. We got to get out. So we ended up buying out our own loan at a discount, which improved our cost of sales. And at that point, we were able to pull enough money together to pay that loan off, and then we didn't have any debt. So at that point, I was able to go back to my buyers and assure them that, hey, we're not going anywhere. We don't have any debt on this project. We're not going to get foreclosed on. You guys can trust that we're going to build this thing and we're going to make it nice, and you know, y'all can close, and you know, it'll be a great place. And so we moved forward with the construction, and ended up opening the resort November of 2009, and you know, it turned out to be just a beautiful place. I think we only had one purchaser back out on their contract, so that was a blessing, and made it through. Another hiccup came in the summer of 2010. The summer after we opened was when the BP oil spill happened, and so we had oil all over the property. that killed our. We also had a large, not only did we do sales, we had a big rental program down there, and that killed our rental business, and which killed our sales business for that summer. But we actually ended up getting a consideration from BP,
Nice.
and that was great. And so overall, it ended up. I think my original performance was like a 2-year sellout. It ended up, we started in 05, and I think I sold my last lot in 2014. So it was a 9-year. It ended up being about a 9-year project, but it actually ended up. We actually did get all the investors their money back, and we actually made money. They made great returns, and it ended up being a very successful project. And that, what was the largest challenge, turned out to be the biggest blessing for my career. Because had it not been for that project, I don't believe I would have been able to make it through that recession.
That's crazy, man. I mean,
That's a good story.
I've heard him tell that story a couple of times, and I love hearing it every time. I mean, it's crazy, man.
That's awesome.
Can you imagine
No.
being in that situation?
No, I'm 26 now.
Right.
I'm like, ooh.
So, what is it that, because it's pretty rare that somebody would go, okay, I don't care if I make a dime from this. I just want to get my investors their money back. That's a pretty rare perspective to have. So what was it that drove that thought pattern at that time?
Gosh, I mean, I would say just values, man. I mean, I don't, somebody really, when an investor comes along, I mean, they're investing in you, and I didn't want them to lose any money, I mean, that was the main thing. I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, I didn't, I cared more about them not losing money than, I didn't feel like I deserved to make any money if they're going to lose money.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Probably one of my favorite scriptures is that your reputation's worth more than silver and gold. And man, that's just, the longer that I'm in business, the more I see that that's true,
When it takes years to build and seconds
a millisecond
to
destroy.
ruin.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, even like you see these guys, this whole, thing with the
Sexual
abuse and all this stuff that's coming out. These people have built a career, and boom.
Even just the allegation is enough to
right.
ruin it.
Which that's a whole nother topic,
Yeah.
but we won't get into that today. So here's this one might make you think a little bit. What does success look like to you?
I think I don't think it has much to do with money. Number one, that's such a big question.
Huge question, but so important.
And I start leaning towards the spiritual aspect of that. It's just impossible for me not to, and I think about, okay, succeeding is glorifying our Creator and loving God and loving others. And to me, if you wake up every day and your goal is to glorify God with your actions and your words, your deeds and your time, and to serve others like Jesus did, and to strive to be obedient to whatever He's called you to do, and to fulfill His commission, to me that's success. Everything else is secondary. So I kind of put it in, I I guess that being the big picture.
Yeah. So I did a little bit of research preparing for this podcast. And what I did was I think I Googled real estate moguls. How do you say it? Is it mogul or mogul?
Mogul.
I just Googled real estate moguls. And I saw a list of kind of the top, billionaire real estate investors that are alive. And I started looking at some of their websites and just doing some research on these people. And I found it really interesting because there were three things that I kind of saw as commonalities between them and you. You share the same kind of thought pattern as these super successful people. And one of the things that I saw was kind of like a moral obligation to spread the wealth, or kind of to share the wealth, and you and I have talked about this before. You have goals and dreams and visions of things real estate related to kind of share. Like you want to be successful so that you can bless others. That's part of who you are, and so I just think that's really cool and really interesting that that's sort of a shared belief across, successful real estate people. I just find that interesting. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think more than probably, I think if you looked at that in other industries, you'd probably find the same thing. People that are successful in other industries, because I think it comes down to your core beliefs. I think whether you are successful or not monetarily doesn't necessarily. I think if you're that type of a person, you're going to be like that if you don't have money or if you do have money, And so I will say, going back to the success thing, in the work and in your work, or what you do for a living, or what you do to create, money. I think success is doing what you love. I think a lot of people get tied up with thinking too much about the end result versus what do you love doing. I love real estate. I love it. I mean, I remember being at a young, even as a teenager, riding around and just admiring like houses and the architecture and the aesthetics. And so, I get pumped up about every deal that I do because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy dreaming up, how can we improve the property? What are some, what's something unique and cool that we can do that hadn't been done, or, so I think that's a key component to, whatever you're doing. If you say what is being successful, I think it has to start with, it'd be hard to be truly successful or something that you don't love doing.
Yeah, totally.
I agree. And just if you love doing it, you'll work 8 hours, 10 hours joyfully. If you don't like it, it's going to be hard to work beyond that. So just the number of hours you'll put in, and you won't burn out. You're not going to burn out if you really enjoy it. It's
because everything's hard. I mean, if you ask my wife if I love real estate, she'd probably, because she gets to hear me come home and complain about how, all the bad, the stress and the,
right.
All this stuff that I have to deal with, and, tenants and, just the finances and just all the tough parts. But, if I didn't love it, there's no way I would be able to stay in it because it's just too hard. It's a, probably like other businesses, it's a really hard business.
Yeah. So me and Duke had lunch a week or two ago, and, I've told you this before, and, truth be told, just being transparent, there have definitely been times where I have struggled personally with you and with Russ. I see both of y'all are close friends of mine, and I kind of see you guys like as more successful than me, right? So I kind of have this lens, and so I can at times struggle with a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy, and I have to kind of pull it back. But we were in the car, leaving lunch, and as soon as we hopped in the car, he had to put out like 2 or 3 fires. And I don't know, I'm not in your business. I don't know your business, but they sounded somewhat significant, right? And I just remember like sitting there as he's dealing with these things. I'm like, yep, he can have it. So, but going back to what you said, when you were battling that challenge, if you didn't have that love and that passion for real estate, like if you were only seeking money, you probably wouldn't have pushed through that Orange Beach deal. You know what I mean? You probably would have ran for the hills.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But because there's something in you, and going back to the things that I saw as commonalities between you and some of these other successful people, one of them was absolutely a will to win. Just an and you are a very competitive person. I've seen your competitiveness here at Creed when we're, doing workouts. I've seen it on the basketball court, and that probably played into it some too, right? Kind of just like, hey, can I beat this thing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose at anything, And I think another thing that just came to mind that I think is a common theme among real estate people that are successful is I would say most of us are lean towards the optimistic side most of the time. And I don't know if that's a learned thing or just a God-given thing, but I tend to be more optimistic about things than pessimistic about things.
Yeah, I think it's a personality.
Yeah.
I think it's a personality thing. Yeah, I do. For the most part. I mean, I think your experiences can shape that, but there's absolutely a personality component to that.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I tend, and again, the reason why, my original business partner helped me out so much was because he helped balance me. My tendency is negativity. My tendency is pessimism. And so I need somebody, and that's what, Benjamin, you are for me right now in Creed. Like you come alongside and you have that, you guys are similar in that regard, just optimism and, smiling and, hey, we can do this, and I need that. I need people around me that are that way for sure.
Yeah.
It's important.
It's almost being unreal. Like, I wouldn't call it pessimism. There are people who are pessimistic. I wouldn't call you pessimistic because you're not. I would say it's being realistic. And I am not realistic. I don't have realistic expectations for my life. I don't have realistic goals. I don't have I just have I have optimism that things could be better than possible. Or, like you said, there were a lot of times in that deal where you felt like God came through. And that for me is where, I kind of see God show up as I set a goal or I say I'm going to do something and it's totally unrealistic. And either I'm like, well, that's probably not possible, or other people say that's not possible. And then it happens and it's, I put in the work or whatever it was, but then kind of God meets you where you're at in your belief and makes things happen. So that, my optimism is not in my ability to do anything. My optimism is in that God has a plan, and I just got to believe in that plan.
So and the third major commonality between you and some of these, huge real estate moguls. I still messing up?
Mogul.
Okay. Why did I think it was
like
mogul?
Ski moguls.
Mogul. Yeah. Anyway, is timing. And we've talked about this before, being at the right place at the right time. And so you've kind of given an example of that on the negative side, like, hey, 2008, terrible timing, everything's crashing, etc. What is the timing atmosphere now? What's that? How does that play out currently, like kind of in today's market?
say for someone who's wanting to get into the
Yes,
real estate
yeah, for
investment
somebody
market?
who's maybe thinking about, and here's another thing that I want you to think about too as I'm asking you some of these questions. Now that we're really dialing in to more real estate type questions, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I believe that most every person, especially if they're a business person, is interested in real estate to some degree. It's kind of like fitness. Like everybody's interested in their health to some degree. I think real estate is very similar, especially for business people. So yeah, answer some of these questions based on like me, for instance. I don't have any real, experience with real estate other than this deal that we did on this building. So answer some of these questions based on that thought pattern of somebody's thinking about or interested in real estate, and kind of how can they sort of get going with some of these things.
Okay. Yeah, so I think real estate is a great investment, but I also think that it's something that requires your time also, and so that's something that everybody's, if they're, are you looking to get into it full time, or are you looking to get in it passively as an investment or whatever? You have to, if you're looking to get into it on the passive side, you have to make sure that you do have some time available to put into it. It's not like the stock market or, other investments where you just stroke a check and that's it, and you just check it every now and then. It does take some of your time and energy, even if you hire a management company to manage it or whatever. So that's the first thing people have to evaluate. But as far as timing goes, I mean, look, man, going through what I've been through, it's always hard for me to give any advice on timing, because I mean, if you'd in 2005, even the guys that had been doing it their whole career, they didn't see that coming. I mean, there's just a handful of people that, completely liquidated to cash before the recession hit. Excuse me. And so, I mean, I think we have another 2008, 2009 right around the corner? No, I don't. But could, something happen and, something beyond our, external something and it cause a big recession? Absolutely. So, I would say, I think the timing, just looking through that lens of, barring external something happening, I think it's still a great time right now. I mean, we've had a great run up over, 7 years of real estate increasing every year. So, a lot of the sectors are starting to cool off a little bit. We're not going to see, probably not going to see the appreciation that we've seen over the last 7 years towards the future. I don't believe it's going to continue on this trend. But I also don't think, and hopefully we won't have just a fall off the cliff situation like we had in 08. So just like other investments, real estate's a long-term game, and, people who think they can get in and flip houses and make some fast money or whatever, that's a tough business. Flipping houses and getting in and trying to get in this market and do that is tough.
And I think I want you to talk about that a little bit more, because I think there's a misconception there. And, I think Fixer Upper and a lot of these, renovating shows have become very popular. And I've seen so many more people doing that, or like attempting to do it themselves. And maybe they're going into it with the thought pattern that it's an easy thing, and you just knock out a few walls and you open everything up and you put some new, appliances in there, and boom, bada bing, you make $50,000. Speak to that a little bit.
Okay. just like I'm hesitant to talk super negatively about MLM, I'm a little hesitant to paint a really bad picture of it, because I think if somebody sets their mind to something and they want to do it, go for it. You can do it. And but I will, try to be realistic with you guys, and it is flipping houses is hard. I mean, it is just hard. It's and I know all these shows, are getting people amped up on it and excited about it. But, you have to, number one, you have to know what the market wants. And that, to me, is something that, just takes a lot of experience and time and trial and error on knowing, every single little decision on layout, on, fixtures, finishes, all the stuff that goes into flipping a house. You got to know what the general market is demanding. Number two, because the economy is so good right now, and because construction is so in such demand, it's really hard to get good contractors and subcontractors to work on stuff. So if you are a handyman kind of guy and you can do all this stuff yourself, great, go for it. But if you think you're going to go buy a house and then hire all these contractors to come do all the work for you, and you call them and they show up the next day, that's not how it's going to happen. Contractors are so busy right now that if just a Joe Blow off the street calls them, you're probably not even going to get a return phone call, because they have more business right now than they can even handle. So when they're dealing with people that they work for every day, why would they pause that to go work for somebody they've never worked for before? So I think that's a challenge right now for people trying to enter the market, is just finding that labor, the skilled labor that's necessary to perform a flip. That's probably the hardest thing. And then number three is finding a deal good enough to buy it at a price to where you can buy it, do all the improvements, sell it, pay the commission, and still make money. Real estate has gone up, and so whereas in 2011, I was one of the only buyers out there buying foreclosed homes, and there were foreclosures everywhere, and we were buying stuff for just crazy prices, discounted below replacement costs, and that's not the environment we're in anymore right now. We're in an environment where even a dump that should be bulldozed is selling for big prices first day it hits the market. So it's a tough environment. All that being said, we're in the best sales environment. So you can sell the houses for more, and faster if it's done right. And so, it's just everything kind of goes up. But the challenges that I just talked about, make it a little difficult. But, hey, I never want to be one to squash somebody's dreams. I like to tell somebody, hey, if you want to do one, go for it. Try one, try to see how it works. I know a lot of one and done flippers.
One hit wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, but then there are some who. Well, let me ask you this: so the Jason and Megan approach, Dominique, do they have a good approach as far as these two, a couple that we know now? It's kind of that's not a good example, because Jason's really good.
These two people,
that's
Jason
true.
and Megan are like,
that's true. I won't go there. Let's change. Let's change the
golfer,
question.
played college basketball.
He can do anything.
Musician. And Megan's the same way.
That's true. That's not a good example.
Outliers.
Let me ask you a better. They're not normal question. I agree with that. I agree with that. So, for somebody who isn't prepared to go at it full time into real estate, right? They want to keep their day job, but they want to dip their toe into it. What would you recommend for that person just to dip their toe into real estate and kind of get started? What would you recommend for that person?
So what we just talked about was the flipping business. That is completely different from going and buying a rental house and sprucing it up a little bit and renting it out to somebody. That is two totally different businesses. And I am, say approach the flipping. If you want to go flip a house, I'll put all kind of caution, flags on that. If you're interested in investing in real estate, which is completely different than flipping houses, that is something that, I think if someone wants to, look at getting into that, absolutely. I strongly consider that. And I have people call me all the time who want advice on that, what you just said. Hey, I'm interested in, getting into real estate. I really don't know what to do. I really don't know where to buy or what to buy or what, And, I kind of tell everybody the same thing, and this is what I say. Number one, I think that's a great idea. I think real estate is a great investment. If you look back over the course of history, real estate has been a great investment for people. And time is what you need. And, barring these hiccups like 2008 and some other ones, real estate has consistently climbed in value over the years at a greater pace than inflation. And so I think it's a good, solid thing that you can actually feel and touch and see, and so there's some satisfaction there. And I'd say, I tell them, go for it. Go find you a good little, three bedroom, two bath brick ranch house in a good neighborhood, and go in and put a little sweat equity in, paint it, replace the fixtures, and spruce up the landscaping a little bit, and rent it out, and let that renter, pay. If you go get a mortgage on it or a loan on it, the rental income can pay for your loan payment, and then you don't expect to make a lot of money off of it. Treat it as an investment. It's something that's going to grow, and your rental income is going to pay your loan down, and then hopefully in 15 years or so, you've got a property that's paid for, and now it's got rental income, and it just it's a good source of income for you.
So let me give you an objection that I've told you before, outside of this podcast setting, and I want you to deal with this objection, right, so that people can hear this. So, so I'll say, well, Duke, I can't, I own a home and I've got a mortgage, and I'm not gonna get approved for another loan so that I can go buy another rental house. Like I can't get that money. Like how am I gonna do it if I can't get the money? So what's your objection to that?
Well, maybe you ain't talking to the right bankers. I think a lot of the local banks in any market, if you go sit down with them and you share with them, so you've got a good job, you've saved up some money. Now, if you don't have any savings, or you don't have any money in the bank, or you're still living paycheck to paycheck, I would not advise you to go buy a rental house,
right?
Because the risks are not nearly as great as flipping houses, but I mean, you still run some cash flow risk on. You buy the house and the air conditioner blows up, and now you've got to go spend $3,000 or $4,000 replacing an air conditioner. So I mean, you've got to be in a position to where you have some savings or some money built up to be able to deal with that stuff. But in general, if you've got 20% of a purchase price of a home in savings, then most banks will consider the rental income that you're going to get off that property to help support the debt that you're going to have on that property. So I would say don't go to the big banks, go to the small local banks, sit down with your banker, tell them you want to buy a rental house. you've got some money saved up, you've got a good job, or you've got a good business, and I think you'll be surprised that a lot of them will want to, loan you some money to buy a good piece of property.
We've had conversations before, and I'll say, well, Duke, I don't have the money to do that, and he'll say, it's out there.
Yeah.
Go get it.
Yeah.
Which I love. Again, it's that optimism, it's that aggressive mentality, it's that you can do it if you want to do it.
Oh yeah. And another thing is go get you an investor. Go find somebody that does have money, and
right.
You say, hey, look, I'm willing to put in the work, sweat equity, and I want to buy rental property, and we'll split the proceeds, and something like that. Get your little partnership agreement put together and go do it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. You mentioned going to get an investor, and some of these different styles of investing. What do you think about like online communities, biggerpockets.com, and then kind of local networking, for investors, for wholesalers, stuff like that? What would your advice be for someone looking to just start getting into it? How to get connected, how to get plugged in, what to stay away from, and what to kind of head towards?
I'm probably not the best guy to ask about Bigger Pockets and a lot of that stuff. Every year I make it a goal to try to get more involved in Bigger Pockets and some of these conferences and classes and things that talk about real estate investing, and I just seem to never get around to checking that stuff off my list. I'm too busy working, and but I think I'm more of a basic fundamental guy. I believe in networking. I believe in networking with anybody and everybody. One of my things is I love to go eat lunch, as Clint's already mentioned, and most days I'm eating lunch with somebody that I'm wanting to learn more about, or seeing how I can help them or how they can help me. And so networking is huge, and there's no secret to it. It's just putting yourself out there, and if you're wanting to, there are so many, if you're your question is kind of more of someone who's wanting to get into real estate as a career, or more than just a passive investment.
Mm-hmm.
I think the wholesaling thing is an awesome idea. I buy deals from wholesalers all the time, and there are wholesalers locally here in Athens that have made six figures off of me assigning contracts to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so these guys go out and they beat the streets and send letters and go knock on doors and find people that want to sell real estate, property, houses, commercial, whatever, and they get it under contract at a price, and then they call me up and say, hey, Duke, do you want to buy this for X? And I negotiate with them, and I end up buying it, and they make the difference between what they've got it under contract for and what they're selling it to me for. And I'm happy for them, because I'm willing to pay the price that I'm willing to pay, and it just so happened they got a better deal than I got. And so there are guys that have made a lot of money just doing that to me, and so that's one way, and other ways is I think something that people have this idea that they got to do it all themselves and like find these deals themselves, and I've made a career off of utilizing the local realtor community. I'm not one of these that think that the realtors, if a realtor knows about it, it's not a good deal. That's not true. I embrace realtors. There were some years early on after the recession, once I got small and started, wasn't doing these huge deals and was just buying small foreclosures and just trying to kind of start the business back going, where I paid more money in real estate commission at the end of the year than I made. And but I viewed it at, the realtors still have a very strong presence and control over deal flow. And so I would say go network with realtors. You know, I believe commissions will continue to get pressure with the transparency that things like Zillow and Trulia are creating. But I still believe there's always going to be a need for an agent in the real estate world, because there's just too many people out there that aren't comfortable with going through a sales or a purchase process without an agent on their behalf. And so I would say network, but also, you know, go find you some good realtors and you tell them what you're looking for, and really, work through them. I embrace the realtor community. As far as the online stuff and the bigger pockets and all that stuff, I think I've been on there a couple times, but I think you got to be careful that a lot of that stuff, it kind of gives me the feel of the MLM, like go do stuff real fast and flip houses. All that ain't how it works.
Yeah.
It's hard work, man. It's just like anything else. You gotta start from the ground up and build your business and your reputation and everything through just really no secret sauce. I mean, it's just hard work, and consistency.
Yeah, and I go to a lot of, conferences, leadership conferences.
I'm gonna go to one with you this year.
Success,
that's one of my goals.
Great, let's do it. Success conferences, whatever. But a lot of these things you go to, they'll have a real estate guy, there selling some kind of program, and again, they make it sound like it's just piece of cake and all this stuff, and so yeah, there's a lot of that out there that I think you got to watch out for as well.
And I bet some of them probably, if you ask to see their portfolio, they might not. They may be making more money doing their coaching.
Right.
There's a ton of money in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much money in that.
Yeah. One of the things me and Benjamin have talked about this a lot, but one of the things that I think we're proud of and want to do is like, hey, we're running an actual business here. We're not just like let's say this podcast blows up and we get all these listeners and stuff, and maybe we're making some money, or I don't know, but we're still running an actual business. Like, it's not just our business to our popularity is not just our business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not we don't treat the gym and the fitness company as a launching pad for whatever. Like, this is priority one. Our people, our culture is number one, and it will be number one, and anything else is accessory and should only be done if it's going to impact and benefit our people.
To actually add value to people, like to actually help people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Let me ask y'all a question.
Yeah.
So when you guys are in this world of, like you said, the conferences and the successful stuff and the coaching and the leadership stuff and all that, is real estate, like, are they promoting like real estate as like a way to, is a lot of that going on? Like, hey, you can make extra money on the side by doing real estate?
I think it's that.
Definitely.
I mean, the one that comes to mind is the one we went to in Atlanta with Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk, and there were several people there selling things. Like one guy was selling a program of how to become an author really fast and get a book published. So he had a program for that, and then there was a real estate guy, and there was a financial advisor guy, and there were several guys that and ladies that kind of did things in between sort of the major speakers, and they're selling these programs that, again, felt very get rich quickish.
Yeah, they weren't really good. I've seen good programs where the person is gonna like mentor you, and that's like, I'm hesitant about online stuff. Bigger Pockets is one of probably the ones I'm the biggest fan of. And then there's others that I've been exposed to where I'm like, oh gosh, like if they're giving you tools, they're giving you value, great. If they're asking you, to sign up for a course, they're going to teach you all the tools and, for X amount of dollars, that's just not, you might get exposed to it, and that $500 or whatever you spend is worth it because you become a career real estate investor or stock market investor, I doubt that you're going to see your money back in value from, if you were to not do anything or to just do one deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've heard Tony Robbins say this. I've heard John Maxwell say this. I've heard a lot of the top gurus, in the success world say this, but they'll say there are a lot of phonies and a lot of fakes in our line of work.
Yeah.
I've heard them all say that.
Yeah.
And which I guess goes for every industry. So, it's no big surprise, but you're, those people at a conference like that, the audience is primed for them because the audience is full of people who are trying to be more successful. They're either trying to get a taste of success or they've already gotten a taste of success and they're trying to be more successful. So they're in front of the perfect target audience.
Yeah. Man, it'd be hard for me to do that. When I think about my career and what I do on a day in and day out basis, I think, man, it'd be hard for me to advise anybody to get do what I do.
Right.
It's just so hard.
And that's again,
hard.
that again goes back to the passion piece. Like I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you've got to have a passion for it. You've got to have a desire. Same thing about this gym, right? I mean, if I didn't have a desire to see people improve and have a desire to take people through hard workouts and see them accomplish hard workouts, and like if I didn't care anything about that, I would have gotten out of this business a long time ago, but because that's there, because I have a desire and a passion for that, it helps me push through. Yeah.
That's one thing when throughout all this, as we've talked about, as soon as kind of Bigger Pockets and forums or educational seminars came up, that was my first thought about you, Duke, was what could I see you doing this? What would it look like? Is it a webinar? Is it a podcast? Is it a seminar? And you are old fashioned in that way that, you like to work hard. You like your 3 square meals, and
you're making me feel old.
Lunch at 12. Lunch at 12.
That is what I want to be, like practical and functioning on that level. And I've kind of taken a back. I used to be all about like, got to do this, got to do that. And I've taken a back seat and said, I'm going to spend time with real people, big fish in small ponds who are doing, big things in smaller places and learn from them rather than listening to, this one person who's made it super big.
And me and Benjamin talk about this a lot too, but one thing that I think annoys us is this kind of like entrepreneurship has become sexy, over
hashtag grind life, hashtag hustle, hashtag workflow, hashtag something. So painful.
When did that start? I mean, I feel like it's just like the last 5
social
years
media. It's
or
all social media.
A lot of it's
now that
social
anybody
media
can be an
driven.
entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And you don't first do something on, like you said, you were an entrepreneur in high school, but you were doing entrepreneurial things. Nowadays, you identify as an entrepreneur, and then you do.
I didn't know what an entrepreneur. I didn't never heard.
No one knew what that.
Right,
That's what
exactly.
Gary Vee talks about a lot. He said
Right.
no one even knew what that word was.
Right.
If you did, it was probably an insult, like, "Oh, you're that weird guy in your basement trying to do whatever,
Right.
an inventor or whatever." Now it's like this sticker that you put on your car, or a hashtag you use on social media to define yourself.
Sure. Yeah.
When you've never done anything.
That's a good point, because as I think about, so what you're saying is like, I guess you're a millennial, right?
Yes.
I just missed the millennial.
I think technically,
1980.
I think technically I'm a millennial.
Okay.
I think.
Supposedly it's
84?
1980. I thought it was 1980.
80? So you're a
If
millennial.
it's 80, I'm a millennial.
I mean, if you had
I
a
don't feel
cell
like a
phone,
millennial
but
at all.
I don't feel like some of the millennials.
Right.
I would, yeah,
Isn't that funny?
So I'm
how
still
we-
trying to learn. I have millennials that work for me,
yeah.
and I'm constantly trying to learn, about people and their habits, and their. So what you're saying is like millennials have this idea of entrepreneurship as almost the goal,
Oh yeah.
rather than whatever they're doing within that field of entrepreneurship. And they have this idea of that the lifestyle of an entrepreneur or
Right.
whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I think I love real estate so much. Even if I couldn't make money doing it, I probably would. I mean, it's hard to say because I got to provide for my family, and you know, I'd have to figure out a way to make money. But I'd probably still be I'd probably do it for free.
What would you do in the industry if all salaries were even? Would you build? Would you design? Would you flip? Would you still be in the exact same role you're in now? What you see all these people in different aspects of the real estate industry. Where would you see yourself?
Probably doing what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I love taking old properties and you know, breathing new life into them, repurposing them. I love doing that. I love designing. I love architecture. I believe I could have been an architect. I love drawing stuff, and so I believe I could have found satisfaction in being an architect. I believe I definitely could have done that, and you know, but yeah, that's interesting, man, about the whole millennial thing. I'm kind of fascinated with the millennials, and you know, even been dreaming up some. Clint knows about this, some multifamily product that would kind of cater to the whole millennial lifestyle.
I can't wait to hear
really
about that.
need to get going.
Yeah,
on,
you've
but
been thinking about that for years. I've been
yeah.
hearing,
I
you
need
know,
to get it going.
I've got your buyers lined up.
gotta get.
I've
it
got
going.
people that are already talking to me about wanting to do it themselves. So and they won't.
All right, dude. Last question I'm going to ask you here. You know, I asked you this one time over lunch, and we talking about books, right? Reading books, and you mentioned Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, and you just mentioned that book had a major impact on you. So what were some of your biggest takeaways from that book?
Oh shoot, man. Trump's an interesting guy, man. You know, I mean, he's obviously he's a character, but you know, one of the things is just going back to that hard work. You know, I mean, he pitches himself as. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things I don't agree about Trump.
Sure,
but that joker works hard. And I mean, he said in his book that he makes like, I can't remember how many numbers of phone calls a day, you know, that as far as being efficient with his time and I mean, he's talking to, I can't remember, 20, 30, 40 phone calls before lunch, you know, and, you know, it's just this whole, people think that things are just going to come to them and that, you know, entrepreneurism is easy and you know, business is easy and things are just going to come to you, and that's not how it works. I mean, you got to go out and get it. You know, you've got to, you know, ruffle the bushes. You've got to make the phone calls. I mean, you've got to, you know, the people that are successful are the ones that are constantly on the offense. I mean, and I feel like that's how Trump is. You know, he's just constantly out there making the calls, doing things, and that was one thing. You know, another one, and I have a hard time sometimes with the self-promotion thing with myself, because I never want it to feel like I'm talking about myself too much or whatever. But, you know, I mean, if you're going to be in business, you have to be in the self-promotion business, you know. And so I think there's a tasteful way to do it and the right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it. But, you know, Trump is more of a marketing machine than he is a real estate guy, you know. And, you know, his dad was probably more of a true real estate guy. Trump's more of just a marketing guy. And so, but he's been successful at it. And so, you know, I think that's another thing, Sean. You got to constantly you got to be out there marketing yourself. You got to be promoting yourself, you know, to the people that you want to be in front of. And, you know, I think that was another big thing. And
do you do that mostly through networking? Is that how you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I probably don't do enough of it. I probably don't do as much as I should.
Because I know there's kind of a joke of like, you've mentioned this a few times, and I've felt it too, but like, you've kind of flown under the radar here in Athens for a long time, to a degree, in terms of, not throwing your sign up everywhere and doing this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know that people have joked with you about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the people that I want to be in front of are a pretty select group of people. It's realtors, it's bankers, it's the brokerage community. But as my business has grown into commercial, office, retail, industrial, now I need the community to know that, we provide a quality product, and that, if it's multifamily or if it's residential, that, say on the flip side of the business, that, our homes that, we flip are, cutting edge quality, very trendy and really well done. If it's, an office building, I want the local business community to know that, if Gibbs Capital's involved, that it's going to be a really well done quality product. So, there is a need to, promote my business. But honestly, for me, the best way to get promotion is just by treating people right, trying to do the right thing, whether you're making more money or less money, and just doing what you say you're going to do, because those things will go a whole lot further than any sign or networking or anything that you can do. A positive review coming from a buyer or a tenant or a customer or a community member is by far the best form of advertising or awareness you can get about yourself or your business.
And the cheapest.
Yeah,
right.
Not always.
That's true.
Not always. The
Yeah,
cheapest.
if you got to finish the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Do the extra thing.
a lot of times doing the right thing is not always doesn't always work out the best for your pocketbooks.
Yeah.
That's good. So if somebody is listening and they want to contact you and ask you a question or do a deal with you or whatever, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I would say they could call my office, 706-621-4302.
Love it. Throwing that phone number
Phone
out
digits.
there. Old school.
Got 'em.
Love it.
Or, they could email me, duke@gibbscapital.com.
Boom. Love it. Anything else you want to say to kind of wrap up here?
No, man, this was great. This was fun. I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I love learning from you guys, and I'm intrigued by this whole. It's good. When you're out there working every day, and I don't have a partner or a boss or anything, so it's real easy to just kind of get lost in the daily grind of just working. And so it's fun for me to hang out with you guys and be deliberate about thinking about success and just talking about this kind of stuff. I love it. It's awesome. I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, and man, it's just the value of the inner circle.
Yeah.
It's the value of being around like-minded people. I think that's why Creed is successful, because that it's kind of built on that premise of you're working out with people that are interested in doing the same thing that you're doing. Sort of like the people in this room. We all have the same interests. We're interested in bettering ourselves. We're interested in doing things with excellence. We're, interested in treating people right. And there's power in that,
Heck yeah.
I thought you had something else to say to that.
Nope. I love it.
Awesome. So, Duke, thanks for coming on, bro. So, Benjer,
My turn.
you're up, big dog. How can someone support this podcast if they desire to?
We'll talk about it.
Let's talk about that.
So biggest thing for supporting us is liking, subscribing, on YouTube, and on through the podcast app.
iTunes.
We're
starting with
podcast app.
you never know when somebody listens. They could be listening to this and it's 2019, 2020. So by then, maybe we're on all the channels, but we're going to begin on iTunes.
On the
monster.
Inserted chip in their brain.
Right.
Which is coming.
It's coming.
Don't mistake it. So another great way to support us is by buying Rise products, which you want anyway. I love your products. I have no ownership in Rise, and I am a huge believer. Corey Little is our mastermind nutritionist,
the expert,
extraordinaire, local.
I'm just the mouth. See, I'm the Donald Trump of the situation.
Yeah.
And then Corey Little's the.
What
dad.
would that make me?
Hey, what'd you think about the? What'd you think about the smart energy?
Duke had some smart energy.
How you feeling?
I loved it, man.
Yeah.
I'm amped up. Ready to go eat some lunch.
It's 12 o'clock.
A few more minutes and you're free to go.
Yeah. We'll keep this short. So we've got Rise Protein. We've got three flavors: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, which doesn't suck like every other strawberry flavor in the world.
Totally.
Fake strawberry is the worst normally. Ours is amazing. I've never heard a bad thing about it.
It's my second favorite flavor. I like
Chocolate?
the most.
I like strawberry then chocolate.
Strawberry is a
I don't even
close
touch
second.
vanilla.
Yeah, vanilla. I mean,
If you're going to mix it with something, vanilla's where it's
that's
at.
right. Vanilla is I think vanilla's the second most popular as far as sales. So chocolate's first, then
They must be
vanilla.
mixing it with something.
Probably so. Putting it in pancakes,
I just think
whatever.
vanilla is vanilla.
Exactly.
It's good. It's a great flavor. It tastes
But
good.
you want to taste a little
But
something
I just
extra.
something. All right, and then we got our Smart Energy here. We've got fruit punch, which is bomb, and
Pink
lemonade, which is fire lemonade. I mean, it is good. It's like
That's what
it
you
put
had,
your
dude.
grandmother out of business.
You had pink lemonade, dude.
Your grandkids or your grandmother, depending on the stand. And then we have Elite Omega-3 fish oil with no burps.
No fish burps.
No fish burps.
No. Gotta leave those at home.
Most fish oil supplements, you're going to get burps that are rank, nasty.
Don't want it.
Not here.
This is something that you take daily, and so this weekend I watched my mother-in-law pop one fish oil in her mouth, and I had to correct her. I was like, "Look, that ain't gonna get it done. You gotta There are two mistakes that people make with fish oil. One, they buy an inferior product that's not high enough quality.
Mm-hmm.
Two, they don't take enough of it. And so the recommendation is 6 per day for men.
6?
6.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to step it up.
6 per day. And it's 4 per day for women. So that's the second, most common mistake is people just don't take enough of it to actually have the effect. So
we need to get Corey on to talk a little bit about how much you can. So 6 per day per man.
He's going to be on.
Yeah.
And we're going to hammer him with that question. And
I've got people asking me left, right, how much can I take?
know.
How much should I take?
We'll let Corey talk about all the why. We'll let him be the expert on the supplements.
No bro science here.
No bro science, no.
Because I'll tell you,
Let
but
the
I'll be
expert
wrong.
speak.
All right. And those are our supplements. We've got a Challenge to Rise coming up.
Third week in January.
Third
I
week in
believe.
January, accurate.
It's coming up.
That is accurate. So third week in January. And what is the Challenge to Rise, Clint?
The Challenge to Rise is a 3-week competition with yourself. It's not a hokey pokey challenge deal that's just going to leave you hanging and maybe you'll lose some weight and then gain it all back when the challenge is over. No. This is a 3-week competition with yourself to eat properly based on the foundational truths of nutrition. This is not gimmicky nutrition. This is not fad science, bro science nutrition. It's solid foundational nutrition that works for everybody. And it just gets you on the path. And so some people just need a kick in the pants, and a great way to do that is to do a challenge. We have a lot of members here that have been getting after it workout-wise, and they know they need to address their nutrition. They know they need to get on point. And the challenge is just an easy way to do that, you know.
Sounds like Duke's been doing his own little challenge here.
Yeah, man.
What'd you say? What'd you say? 5 weeks?
No
You've been doing it 5
calories?
weeks?
How'd you know about no liquid calories, man? Come on.
Hey, like I said, it goes back to the wifey comments, man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You know?
He was trying to go
And
over,
and
not
the
under.
And the seatbelt.
Yeah. So I figured I'd take baby steps. I wanted to achieve my goals. I didn't want to get crazy and, you know, start saying I'm never going to eat anything.
Boom.
And so I said, all right, well, I can cut out my sweet tea at lunch. I can cut out my cream and sugar in my coffee. And I can not drink soft drinks. So I've been going water, black coffee, and sweet tea.
Love it. Love it.
I took a couple days off at Christmas.
Perfectly
Got
fine.
it. Yeah.
Back on
Perfectly fine.
now, and so I'm gonna just keep it going. I'm already comfortable with the black coffee. Don't even miss the cream anymore, and I'm comfortable with the unsweet tea.
Love it.
Boom.
2 years ago, if you said
2 years, try 2 months.
well, no, it's been a. I went from sweet tea to half and half for about 3 years.
Oh, okay.
I've been on
okay,
half
okay.
and half for about 3 years.
I thought you were just hammering the sugar
No,
2 months ago.
So half and half now is going to 0 on my tea.
Boom.
But 3 years ago, if you said you drink unsweet tea, I'd be like, man, I ain't drinking that. But I'm used to it already.
I love it.
So you're already hitting one of the two, immediate and always. No liquid calories, fish oil.
All right,
Fish oil.
All right.
That's immediate and always. From the expert, Corey Little. That's from the expert. That's not from Clint Watson. Clint Watson's the fitness guy, okay?
What does fish oil do?
I'm gonna let the expert speak to that. But let me give you the easy answer. What does fish oil not do? That's the easy answer. Fish oil is the most heavily researched nutrient on the planet. They can't find anything wrong with it. They can't find anything bad with it. It helps everything from you losing body fat to, heart health, cancer prevention. It helps your fingernails and your hair. I mean, it
Joints
does
too,
everything.
right?
Joints. It's the whole kit and
Yeah.
caboodle.
Why not?
All right. Well,
Immediate.
I need to buy
always.
some.
But
How
all
much is it?
Well, how about I give you a gift for coming on the
Oh,
podcast?
right.
I'll give you
Oh.
2 gifts. I'll give you that
All right.
shaker
Yeah, that's
bottle
fine.
and a bottle of fish oil.
I like it.
Boom.
I was going to suggest that last time. That we need to give people something.
Well, we did. We gave Scott. We did.
He left it.
He left it.
I'm
Well,
drinking out of it. It's mine now. Gotcha.
How else can people
Last thing,
support us?
101
if
class.
They want
101 class
to.
coming up.
101's coming up. Yep, Creed 101. If you're local, if you're here in Watkinsville, GA, again, 2020, somebody's listening to this.
Yeah.
Might have a little, maybe with Duke's help, we might have a little location for you wherever you're at. I don't know.
Whoa, musings.
Maybe you're in Georgia. Maybe you're in
Putting it out there for the world.
New York. What you think, dude?
Maine,
Want to go worldwide with it?
Mr. Worldwide.
Think big, man.
Let's go.
And
Duke's
that's-
gonna find our location for us.
And I think that's it.
Boom. Did you mention subscribing?
Yes.
Yes, you did. You checked the box. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for listening. I hope you're on the path. If you're not, listen to those first episodes. Listen to what we believe. Listen to what the creed is. Get on the path. Thanks again for joining us today, Duke. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.